Greetings, travelers, and welcome back to the journey of our human paladin, Pathalerix, is making his way through hardcore, self-found World of Warcraft on Classic, of course. And last episode, we got started from level 1 and went all the way into Loch Modan and Westfall quests. And that is right where we're picking up today. Let's see what Azeroth has to offer. As for the character today, I have one major goal. Make a decision on whether I should join the human-only guild of Human Error or Honorcore, because we're doing this run human only. Of course, we have some secondary objectives of surviving and ideally getting some upgrades, but with the agenda set, let's get out there and quest. Back out into the loch we go. I've been spending quite a bit of time out here in the loch, both in retail and on this character in Classic. Now the current status out here is finishing off some of the quests we got from Thessalmar. First and foremost, getting the last of the supplies for the Thessalmar blood sausages. We have the spider ichor and the boar meat sorted out, but we do need a few more of the elder black bears for the bear meat, which is at a listed 35% drop rate, but Classic being Classic, I am prepared for either 3 kills or 30 kills on these bears. We're pretty close to leveling up here, so just a few black bears in, and ding, level 13. As far as the talent spec goes, I still am putting all my points into improved Blessing of Might. I'll keep that rolling, and we'll just change up once I have 5 out of 5 and see where to go next. The nice thing is that while we're killing beasts out here in the loch, we do still have skinning, which we should probably drop soon, but we can use it while we have it to stockpile up on some good vendor cash. Also just some good leather to have for crafting down the road. And there we go. 3 out of 3 for black bear meat in the bags. Those blood sausages aren't going to make themselves, so with a quick stop to Vidra Hearthstove, the recipe for the blood sausages, and the quests locked in. Let's head back to Stormwind, because the quests here in the loch are now scaling up to about 15 to 16, and we do have some unfinished business in Westfall, one piece of which is returning Dungar long drink supplies, the Flight Master here in Stormwind. But with that all handed in, we have a lot of work to do here in Westfall. We left off the quest with a target for the Defias Trappers, 15, plus Defias Bandanas. On top of that, a whole lot of hunting for boars and buzzards. Let's start with the Defias though, because this is the first of several levels of Defias here in Westfall, but even though they're the lower level ones, it doesn't quite mean that we can take them for granted. The Trappers are true to their name and can throw roots, and roots are one of those things that can pretty much be an instant death in hardcore in some cases. If things start going south, it definitely doesn't help. So I'll hang around here, snagging the Defias and a few of the gore tusks as we wait for respawns, because we still do need the boars for their livers. Yeah, I didn't see this flesh ripper. Also didn't see that Defias. Okay, well that was a health pot, a bubble, and a lay on hands, all just to survive. I mean, I think we were definitely okay the whole time, but we did use up all of our cooldowns quite early here, out of an abundance of safety, but I mean, we definitely have to be a little more careful out here, otherwise we're going to end up dead before level 20. So we'll get the rest of these kills with a little bit more of a swivel on our heads, which should help for the safety department. Alright, so getting back to Gryan, with the new confirmation of the 30 Defias down, and a target for 30 more. This time, the Pillagers and Looters. We'll go ahead and hold off on that one for now. That one might require level 15 to really do, and maybe if we round out the rest of the Westfall quests here, we'll ding up just enough to get there. Plus, heading off to the east here, towards the Riverpaw Knolls out by the Longshore, we have some quests to get the Knollpaws. They do have a few camps around, but given that this is hardcore, and our gear, being self-found, isn't super great, I think our best bet is just to stick around the perimeters and take out 1 or 2 stragglers as they go. Well, I mean, it doesn't always go to plan to pick them off, but we still have some decent stats, I suppose, so if we do end up pulling 3, we can get them out. But there's also a few travelers out here in the wild who sometimes don't mind throwing a helping hand here and there. So with the Riverpaw Knolls in the rear view mirror, we do still have a pocket watch that we have to snag. Because there comes a time in every paladin's life that Benny Blanco must go down, and the Furlbrow's pocket watch must be obtained. So let's lock in, and take this guy out in the house. Not too bad, and pocket watch obtained from the closet, and we did have a little bit of help here from a fellow human with the heals. And looking at the map, it does seem like we're slowly picking off the quest here in Westfall. I think we should now just make our way down to hand in the pocket watch, and maybe tag a few boars along the way. Oh, uh-oh. I think I'm DCing? And that was a wolf coming right up to us. Yeah, we're definitely DCing here, and oh my gosh. And we're not getting back anytime soon, it doesn't seem. Oh boy, let's hope we're still alive. Oh, thank goodness. The coyote is dead underneath of us, so either we killed it, or someone might have saved our lives. Either way, with the DC boss a real possibility right now, let's go ahead and get out of the danger zone of Westfall with hostile mobs all around, hand in the quest, and hang out in Stormwind to let some stuff settle. At least while we're in Stormwind, there's a few things we can do while waiting and testing our connection to make sure no more DCs happen, because we do have quite a bit of light leather stocked up in the bags, and I think it's time we drop the early game skinning and swap to our long-term choice, engineering. It will open up an early chance for a helm, being the goggles, but it also does unlock target dummies, which can basically be get out of jail free cards in hardcore. They have some health and taunt the mobs around you. So if we have those in the bags, we will definitely have a few outs in case we get into a sticky situation. Between bubble, lay on hands, health pots, and target dummies, hopefully we can avoid a death. I guess as long as we don't DC. And also get the next ranks of mining as well while we're in town. Thanks to leveling up with mining, we do have a lot of rough stone stockpiled, which we can process down into rough blasting powder for some early levels. We'll likely need these to craft down the road anyways, so it is pretty min-max. Those are good enough to get us up to about level 34 engineering, and it looks like handfuls of copper bolts are going to be the next up. Not to mention, a third reason for leveling up engineering, bombs. Right now we can make some copper bombs, and other dynamite in general, and these will give us a massive advantage because it gives us an AoE. In Classic, Paladins have quite a tough time for AoE, especially as a Retribution Paladin, and a few of them also stun, which could most definitely be a lifesaver in some tough situations. So all in all, a good little stop to train professions. Not quite enough materials to level up engineering for the goggles and target dummies yet though, but a few levels in the books, and a few copper bombs in the bags. We have those safely on the action bars and ready for our next bout of questing. We've had a stable connection long enough where I think we can go back out and get some quests under the belt. But first, let's make a quick stop at the Darkmoon Fair, talking to Sage, who asks us some pretty intense and theoretical, dare I say it, philosophical questions, all for the purpose of giving us a fortune. But the real reason we're stopping by him here is actually for the buff, a very solid stamina buff actually, and a 2-hour duration. Decent. We need all the safety we can get, because we're back in Westfall, with hopefully some better connection, and finally finishing off these boars. Plus, for the Westfall stew, we also do need to source some Murloc eyes. Done and done. On to the next level of adventures here in Westfall.
See you around.
First up, the Harvest Watchers. We have 20 of them in the sights, and while we're fighting these guys, it's probably a good time to start thinking a little more seriously about which guild we're going to join, Honorcore or Human Error. Now, I have been seeing a lot more players around these starting zones in Honorcore, which kind of adds up with the guild stats. Honorcore seems to be a little bit lower of an average level, an aspect that for us might actually be a little bit of a bonus, because if we're closer to the average level of the guild, since we're just starting out, we should have a better time getting groups for dungeons while leveling up, and maybe even an easier time getting a spot as one of the first 50s to 60s to gear up and get raiding. So I'll see if any other travelers around here can give us some more details on these guilds, but we might need to find some members of Honorcore and try to make friends to get the invite. Harvest Watcher's done though, and level 15, which should be high enough level to take on the Pillagers, I hope. Now they are one of the most deadly mobs in hardcore World of Warcraft, so we'll be careful here. To be fair though, the deadliest mobs in hardcore are kind of skewed to the lower levels since of the early deaths that tend to happen at 5, 9, 15, and 20. Most deaths tend to bias towards the lower levels. Nevertheless, the pillagers historically are so dangerous because their fireballs can take you out pretty quickly. Plus, they're surrounded by looters who have disarm. Disarm, as a human paladin, is not something we want to see our opponents having. On the plus side though, the server is so populated with other travelers out here doing their own race lock challenges, whether it be human, gnome, dwarf, or night elf, that it can kind of be hard to find enough pillagers and looters to kill. But that also means if we get into a tight spot, there is usually someone else around who wants to tag the extra mob anyways. With the tough respawns, it kind of seems best to float between Moonbrook and the other spawn locations. And check this out. I ran into another paladin out here who has adorned the colors of Honorcore. Let's see how a couple of skirmishes with the Defias go with them. He isn't much for words, but a pretty solid fighter, so I think we can join up and enter the Honorcore guild. It should hopefully give us some good options for guild members to group up with for dungeons. Dead Mines is coming up soon after all, and there we go. Officially, Pathalerix of Honorcore, invited courtesy of Jägerette, the human rogue. A hearty welcome indeed in guild chat, always nice to see. While finishing up the quests here, it's also probably worth popping into the Moonbrook house to check on the vendor, the Defias Profiteer, because he can have some juicy limited supply upgrades. Unfortunately though, it looks like he's sold out here, but vendors like this are always worth a stop on self-found, because if he happened to have them, well, we'd be walking away with some new gear. I do have another one in mind though for Loch Modan, so we'll have to check that out when we get back there. With some closer fights though, relying a little bit on engineering bombs for some extra AoE damage, we are done with the pillagers and looters. The deadliest mobs in Westfall simply couldn't take out Pathalerix. But with that handed in, Brian is now asking us to take out the highwaymen and pathstalkers, which I think for the time being is a little bit above our pay grade and level. So let's swap vibes and head back to Loch Modan for some extra XP, shall we? Oh, well this is a little bit awkward. I never actually got the Loch Modan Thesselmar flight path. So I guess we just go to Ironforge and walk again?
I need to get closer.
At least there's some copper on the way. Alright, well here we are, back at it in Loch Modan, now with a few extra levels under our belts. Enough levels to take on the Silver Stream Mine. The target here, tunnel rat ears, and mining gear. The problem though, the mining gear is hidden in caves, and aside from our little DC earlier today, caves might be one of the more dangerous aspects of hardcore. If we get bad spawns in a cave, it can definitely be a death. These supplies are kind of close to the entrance, but I don't really want to take them because someone is already fighting, and I don't know if they want the supplies. But actually, on second look, they're gonna die. Well, lay on hands. On cooldown now. So far the dwarves haven't wronged us, and we are in Loch Modan, so maybe saving one dwarf's life isn't too bad. It looks like they were trying to fight but had pressed enter on their keyboard, so they couldn't actually cast any of their abilities. Not ideal. I guess we can snag the mining gear after all. And with that, 4 out of 4 mining gear loaded up, and as for the rest of the tunnel rat ears, let's go get those outside of the cave, where we have a little more real estate to run if needed. But there's also something else outside the cave. Nylan Andermar, the Loch Modan vendor I mentioned earlier. And he actually has the heavy spiked mace in stock, but it does cost pretty much our entire cash stack at 73 silver. Looking at the +6 strength though and the massive damage increase, I do think it's worth it, especially on a self-found character where we can't just go to the auction house to buy upgrades. This could definitely save us in a couple fights and also speed up our leveling. There's more than one left in stock as well, so we may as well give a heads up to our fellow guildie here. New mace in hand, and these tunnel rats don't stand a chance. One thing I love about Classic WoW is just how much you really feel the power level spikes with upgrades like this. We do have to be careful though, because with power spikes can definitely come overconfidence Yet another thing in classic WoW that can prove deadly. At least we have the stats to back it up now though. The paladin is absolutely cruising through Loch Modan now. And while we're back in Thessalmar for a bit, let's go ahead and make sure we actually get the flight path. Nice. Quests handed in, levels stacking up, and I for one am having a blast out here on this paladin. But there's still plenty more adventuring to come, and tomorrow, I definitely want to get all the quests and clear through dead mines to hopefully maybe even replace this mace. But until then, travelers, go with honor, friend.